Morning all. Here we go. Let's look at the things we discussed, these techniques I showed you in the space and depth reverb week 5. So let's start with first just this principle that your reverbs need or are best served or will serve you best if they are placed on a bus. So rather than here putting the reverb on this channel here with the Vox on, I'm going to create a specific channel for the vocal as a vocal bus. And that is just good practice because, as I said in class, the compressors that are on the vocal bus, on this vocal channel, they will affect the feed to the reverb. And these compressors are holding the vocal in place, and we've minimized the dynamic range of the vocal. But what you can do is you can add a little bit back of an easy dynamic range in the reverb, so the reverb isn't compressed. If I show you, it will make more sense. So at the moment, the Vox is going to bus 32. Just to clarify, is this music bus? That's where everything is being sent. I've done that because I have this ducking compressor on it. Anyway, beside the point. Right, so what I'm going to do is create a Vox bus. So I'm going to redesignate the output to a new bus. Let's call this bus 1. Let's put it all the way over here, but I'm going to call it Vox bus. So you see that that's what that is. This is now the Vox bus. This also needs to be rerouted to my music output. You don't need to do this. This can stay going to your stereo output, right? And then I'm going to move the compressors onto the vocal bus. It's exactly the same. This vocal channel here is feeding this here. But what this action allows me to do, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move this into a better place by just cheating the system a little bit. And I can move the vocal bus up 1, I believe, just by doing that. There, that moves that into place here. So this vocal is feeding this bus. And instead of having the compressors on this channel, they are now on here instead. And that allows me then to create a send on this vocal channel that isn't compressed in the same way that the vocal is. And like I said, this is just a way to sort of cheat back a little sense of dynamic in the vocal that doesn't affect your mix as much as letting the vocal have its own natural dynamic. So let's now create our bus for our reverb. So I'm already sending this one from the output directly to here, but now I'm going to use the sends. That's this channel here. So create a new send, and this bus is going to be verb. So here's our output. Let's call this one verb. And on here, we're going to put the chroma verb because it's just a common verb that you all know, and it's got the nice visual. Here it is. And we use the room. And this send over here, I'm going to click on the send that we created and make that pre-fader. And again, all that does, and if I hold down Option and click on the dial, that sets the volume to 0, gives me a unity volume. Now, that just means that I can solo the reverb and be able to hear it. So when we play now, I'm just hearing the reverb. So I can make choices about the reverb that are clearer and more, distinct. So I know I just want to bring this density and size down. This is going to make it have less close reflections. I want the reverb tail to be a little bit longer. And the distance can stay roughly where it is. Now, when I blend it, you can hear the difference. It's slightly longer, but it's slightly cleaner too. Now, I'm just going to blend this in with the vocal. I mean, you can do this with the backing track off. So if I mute the backing track. And the thing we were discussing about pre-delay is that this focus here, is the it's that phenomena of if I have too much reverb, it pulls the vocal into the background, especially when the mix is in place here. My brain decodes that as she is in the distance. The vocal is in the distance. That's not what I want. I want the reverb, but I don't want the distance on the voice. And this is where pre-delay comes in. So if you set this to 60 milliseconds plus, you're going to take it past, you're going to separate it from the initial instance. And that will make it feel like the reverb is separated. It initially makes the reverb sound louder because you can, the beginning part isn't masked by the vocal. So if I turn that down a little bit, I'm going to bring the pre-delay down slightly to about 55 because I can kind of hear a tiny slapback. And that pre-delay just allows me a little more reverb than I'd want. But you can also hear that the vocal, when she sings louder, is going to hit this reverb louder and give it a bigger sense of size in there. That's the first stage. That was the simple process of using the pre-delay to separate the reverb from the voice and drag the reverb back into the mix and not the voice. So what we'll do is we will come back in just a sec and we will look at adding the pre-cue and the pre-shaping, as we called it the other day, and the compression technique. But I'll do that in a separate video. So be back shortly with another video.